Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have the chair of the Department of Music and Theater, Matthew Poole.
And I'm the treasurer of the PPG, Ashlyn Proch.
I'm Julian Centeno, and we are the podcast of the Pear Garden. Welcome, Matthew.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you're recently our new chair of the department.
That's true, yep.
So how has that been so far, just transitioning into a new position?
Yeah, great, thanks. I mean, everyone's been lovely. Everyone's been very kind and very patient. When did I start? August 18th, which I've no idea how long ago that was. It's been a whirlwind. But I'm enjoying it. There's a lot for me to do, running two departments, and I have about 10 years' experience of chairing departments, but it's always challenging coming in new to a new department. These are the third and fourth departments that I've chaired.
Okay.
So there's always a lot to learn, and so that on top of just the normal everyday chair stuff, which has increased in the last few years, is a lot. And then we had, some unexpected incidents, as we all know, in the last few weeks. Yeah, it's been a lot. But honestly, everybody's been so helpful. Faculty, staff, students, everyone's friendly. So yeah, I've enjoyed it so far.
Okay. So you said this is your third and fourth department now you've done.
Yep.
What were the other one and two?
Okay, so I was hired in 2015 to be the chair of art and design.
Oh.
And I did that for 6 years, which is 2 terms. Like chairs usually serve for 3 years.
Okay.
There's a kind of health limit because it's stressful and it's full on. Like it's, in the other departments that I've chaired, you get phone calls from the dean or from colleagues, late at night because something's gone wrong and things need fixing. So yeah, anyway, it's a lot, and chairs usually do 3 years. But so I did that for 6 years, loved it. It was very, very hard work because at the time we were all transitioning on this campus from the quarter calendar to the semester calendar. Yeah. And that was like having another full-time job on top of an already full-time job. So I then was asked to be interim chair of the Department of Communication and Media, which I did for 3 years, which I just stopped doing on August 17th this year. And then I came over here because the dean asked me to do this. So here we are. Yeah.
And we're glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Has anything you've done from the past, chairs, has any of those skills you've learned passed over to help how you're doing the chair now?
Oh, that's a good question, yeah. What have I learned? Yeah. I've learned to be incredibly patient, which is very helpful for a chair. And one of the things that I think about department chairing, which suits my personality, is you have to be able to defer gratification. Okay, so what I mean by that is projects that chairs are involved in or that chairs help with or sort of nudge along or give input on, they're usually things that take a long, long time to come to fruition. So you have to be prepared to kind of just work every day like a steamroller. Mostly my days are just grinding through my email inbox and just trying to get to the end of any messages I got that day. Every day is sort of both underwhelming and also often exhilarating. Someone will tell me something that they did. A student has got into a grad program or, succeeded in something else or, had a wonderful performance or whatever, or a faculty member's got a book published or whatever. Yeah. And so you get these little kind of sparkles of really nice, gratifying things, and you think, or you hear that somebody's been promoted, or whatever, and it's nice because you think, yeah, I helped a little bit with that like 6 months ago. And so having that mindset of just being patient and also knowing that you're contributing, even though every day, it's so full on. Like you're constantly switching between one particular task and another. I describe it as spinning a lot of plates. Those kind of magic shows that you see. It's spinning a lot of plates all the time, so you're running from each little spindle to the next one, like keeping it going, giving it a little vibration. So it's like that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we've talked about your activities as a chair for several different departments here on campus. And we know that something else that you do here currently is you are the advisor for the Coyote Film Club.
That's right, yep. Yeah, I was officially made the advisor this year, but as in my role as department chair of Comm and Media for the last 3 years, I got to know those students. They chartered it, they sort of revived it last year, in the fall last year, so fall 2024, with Professor Roberto Orejel and our staff colleague Sarai Maldonado. Sarai is still with me now, the advisor to the Yoti Film Club. But yeah, it's been really, really fun seeing them get it back up and running and how quickly they just jumped into projects. Yeah. They've made like 3 or 4 short films last year. They submitted them to film festivals, student film festivals. They won prizes. And now, they're working on two more films, short films, and they're organising a film festival on campus, which will be happening December 3rd. I know that because it's the day before my birthday. Oh. And that's going to be happening in the SMSU South on December 3rd. It's going to be really awesome. They were inspired by San Bernardino Valley College because they have their film festival, and they have a terrific partnership. This campus, the Department of Communication and Media, have a terrific partnership with SBVC, and in fact, the chair of the Communication and Media Department over there, Lucas Cuny, he also does part-time teaching here, and Kevin Lyons, who is a professor over there, he also teaches here in film. So it's just a really nice partnership, and they were happy that we were doing something, and it's just really good for the region to have more exposure for not just student filmmaking, but independent filmmaking as well. So the Yoti Film Club have been reaching out as wide as they can across the region to independent filmmakers who are making, small, low-budget films. And, it's going to be great. It's the first one, so we're trying it out. And it'll be what it'll be. I'm sure it'll be a success, but it's a great opportunity just to jump in, give it a go, and then next year see how we can refine it, augment it, and make it bigger and grow it over the coming years. Yeah.
How would someone submit a film to? Is it open to students, the community? Like, how would they submit a film to this film festival?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably the best place to start is the Department of Communication and Media website, where you can go to the club's page and then click on Yoti Film Club, and they've got all the information there. They also have their own independent website for the Yoti Film Club, and through social media. They have a big social media presence. They've been pushing out loads of posts, and they can be contacted through DMs, in Instagram mostly, but also Facebook, YouTube channel, and I think they do TikTok. I don't know. I don't should check that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the filmmakers can contact the members of the Yoti Film Club directly through those different social media channels and the website. And they're just hungry to meet anybody new, and there's no kind of criteria as such. Like, there is going to be a juried competition, so there'll be prizes. Okay. But in terms of entries, they just want to open it up to the community and see who wants to join in.
Yeah. Well, anyone at home who has an idea or has been working on a student film, hit them up.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for telling us all of that. That's really great to know that that's coming up. So we've talked about your activities currently in academia. working as advisor, department chairs. So we want to ask, what did you major in when you were a student?
Oh, great, yeah. So I was, as you know, I'm English. I'm from the UK, and I studied fine art, which is called studio art here. And so I was a contemporary artist. I won't say visual artist, because fine arts or studio art is so broad. It's not just visual work. I actually did quite a lot of performance art in that sort of vein. Like, it's very different to theatre, but it's using the body and space and movement. I did a whole bunch of things. When I was younger, probably from the age of about 10, I quite seriously wanted to be a painter, and I just spent my days drawing and painting. And when I was first at university, as an 18-year-old, I really wanted to be like somebody like Lucian Freud, painting bodies in space. And I have a couple of paintings in my office that I did when I was like 20. One is of my mum, one is of my sister, and I really, really was trying to copy the style of Lucian Freud, like that thick paint, and trying to get the feeling of the flesh and the hair and whatnot. But quite quickly, through education, I just learned just the expansive horizon of what contemporary art can be. So I tried sculpture, printmaking, video, performance arts, all sorts of things, and it was just really great. I was very lucky. I had a really, really good education in the UK, and then I went on to do a graduate degree in Newcastle upon Tyne. My bachelor's degree is from Oxford University, St Catherine's College, and at the Ruskin School of Drawing and of Fine Art, which is the full title, named after John Ruskin. And then I went on to do my graduate degree in Newcastle upon Tyne, where I continued doing the same sort of thing. I actually started making objects for performance, a bit like the German artist Rebecca Horn, if anyone's interested in looking her up. She was very famous in the 80s and 90s. And so I was sort of continuing performance ideas or concepts through object making. Yeah, so that was how I got my start. But all the while I felt I was much better working with other people. Like, I wasn't that sort of artist who works alone and has a kind of solitary practice. And that led me to creating exhibitions early on, when I was in my undergrad, just making, quite quick exhibitions with friends. And that basically turned into most of my career. I've worked for galleries, I've done freelance exhibitions around the world. So I largely have been a curator most of my professional life. And now I write about it. I write about museology and curating. And I haven't really produced an exhibition in years, but it's a fascinating subject that I like writing about.
What kind of objects did you produce for those performances, and what mediums did you work in for that?
Okay, good question. Yeah, so I'll describe one which was a device for shaking hands. So it was like a steel cradle. So I had to learn how to weld and do like powder coat paint, on steel. And so it was like a cradle that two arms could be strapped into, and they'd be like locked into shaking hands. So one of the things I was interested in, probably from like the end of my second year of the BA, were rituals, like social rituals that we get involved with. So, eating rituals, proximity rituals, touching rituals. And so shaking hands obviously is like a touching ritual, which is generally friendly, but also it can be aggressive. I lived in the East End of London for 20 years. You learn that shaking hands can be super aggressive if you go to the wrong pub. And so, that's just a sort of silly comment about that, but the reality is that even a friendly handshake is also quite not aggressive, but there's a kind of underlying, there's a control element to any of these kind of social rituals that we have that involve our bodies. Proximity rituals like nodding to acknowledge somebody's presence, but not actually going as far as touching them, like shaking their hand or patting their shoulder or whatever, bowing, things like the curtsying, things like that. There's a kind of control element which we all buy into because we learn through interactions or through being corrected that you're supposed to behave in a certain way in front of certain people in certain circumstances. And so even though like shaking hands seems like a very polite thing to do, it's actually also, quite controlling, and it's something we do to ourselves. Like we enter into that contract freely because, you sort of, not to sound too technical about it, but we all do like risk-benefit analyses of every kind of interaction we do all the time without even thinking about it, and we learn a lot through trial and error, through body proximity and touching and so on. And so I just wanted to just to sort of highlight what are essentially like ideological apparatuses that we do every day. Shaking hands is like an apparatus to keep a certain element of and when I say ideology, I don't mean like left and right politics. I mean like broad, like just a broad complex of concepts and ideas and beliefs and practices that form a way of life. I mean, that's what I mean more broadly by ideology. And all these kind of things we do that I call rituals keep that going, they kind of form the foundation of it. But also they're tools, so you can use them to modify or modulate your beliefs, the beliefs of others, and so on and so on. And creating art of any kind is also a sort of ideological tool, and can be used to modulate and modify in a very slow way. Like you don't need to do necessarily like super radical things. I'm not talking about like activism, which is slightly different. Challenging people's immediate conscious perception of the quality of something. So like, what are the qualities of handshaking? Well, most people think, I presume, as I do and did, it's a friendly thing to do, it's a polite thing to do, but also it's a sort of controlling thing. It has an underlying, like a low-level ambient violence about it. Not like a, vicious violence, but the control element is a sort of constraining violence. But also, as it's dialectical. It's also allows for positive things and productive things to happen. So it's not just controlling, but it's generative as well, because it allows for social bonds to be made, and that can be very positive. So yeah, that's one example of the sort of thing that I was making.
Okay.
It's a very anthropological approach to artwork. Was anthropology one of the things that you studied as well?
It wasn't. No, that's a good question as well. It wasn't really. Although, the main sorts of things I studied were art history, of course, but also things like performance theory. And there are lots of performance theorists who really kind of overlap with anthropology, for sure. The main guy that I was reading at the time when I was doing my grad degree, for example, was a theorist called Richard Schechner, and he wrote a book called, was it The Theatre of Ritual or The Ritual of Theatre, something like that. And I was able to kind of apply those in a fine art concept, those ideas in a fine art context. And then mostly alongside art history and performance theory, what I was reading was political philosophy. And so a lot of the political philosophers I'm interested in also kind of overlap in some ways with anthropological subjects, not necessarily methods, but subjects for sure. Thinking about, how societies form, how activities in various societal groups influence the cognitive matrix across that group, like what's happening, how do people think, not just what do they think, what changes the way they think. So, for example, one of the fascinating things coming to America, as an immigrant, is seeing how much coordinated group dancing is in the culture, which to me is like medieval, because I come from a country which had, a kind of documented medieval period. This country doesn't, of course, because the native peoples didn't write things down or create pictures in the same way. But coordinated dancing in Europe, for example, for hundreds and hundreds of years, was an incredibly powerful way of making groups of people self-identify as being part of that group and tell stories about their own group and other groups and so on and so on. And of course, America, like the United States of America as it is today, doesn't have that history because the country's only 250 some years old. So it seems like to me, and this is just, something I'm just saying off the cuff, but what I think is like an obsession with coordinated mass dancing is like a medieval period for the United States, because it's a really, really powerful ideological tool. If you can make people move together, you can make them sort of think, but also have like subconscious reactions together. It's an amazing way to bond people together. So, pop music, advertising, all sorts of things at school that people do, like marching bands, cheerleaders, all that stuff. Like, it's much, much bigger here than it is in Europe, because I think, it's weird because the influence of the culture of the United States has, a huge grip on European countries' cultures. But it's sort of like we're over it a bit, and we quite like it over in Europe. But here, it's like, no, it's really serious. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling on too much about that. It's
that was like really interesting. Yeah. First of all, I enjoyed listening to you talk about that, and especially to hear your impressions of America, because that's something a lot of us who live here forever would never think of.
Yeah. So you seem very passionate about art, and so I know you have a very busy work now. But in your free time, do you still do any type of arts in any form?
Not really, no. I mean, I occasionally make a piece here and there for a friend, or, if there's a birthday or something. One of the pieces that I was quite proud of, which initially may sound very kind of silly and inconsequential, is I've made these drawings in the past. I call them elastic band drawings. So I get a big elastic band, as big as I can find, and I drop it, or I sort of twist it and drop it on a piece of paper, and then I just trace around the inside of the shapes and the outside of the shapes. And that's it. Ta-da! Because the sort of pedagogical training I had as a contemporary artist was through the lens of 1960s and 70s conceptual art. So anything can be art, and also a specific kind of nothing can be art as well. That kind of work influenced my trajectory as an artist. Even in the performance work I was doing, what I was describing before, just making a piece of work about shaking hands, like something seemingly incredibly inconsequential, also feeds into this work that I have done in the past, the elastic band drawings, because you never know, I like to think you never know what's going to be beautiful. And when I was a painter, for example, I could work for hundreds of hours on a painting, and it was just, honestly, even if it was sort of quote unquote good, like it, had some solid verisimilitude, it could just be like useless. There's just nothing to me. Like, if it didn't say something, or if it didn't contribute somehow to the discourse. And I thought with the elastic band drawings, it's not necessarily about novelty, but I didn't know anyone else in my art historical studies that was doing anything like that. And it's about chance as well, because you never know how it's going to drop. There's a sort of beauty in chance. And honestly, personally, I think they're quite beautiful things. They're so simple, and they're silly, and they're fun, but also there's a kind of serious underlying intent. So I occasionally make those for friends, if I can't think of anything else to get them. Just kidding. Just kidding. But no, what I mostly do now is, reading and writing. Not really about art anymore, but about the presentation of art. Okay. Because my interest shifted to the politics of not necessarily the production of art, but the reception of art and the sites of where art is seen by audiences. So, that is a kind of production in itself. Like curating, for example, is a kind of production. I don't necessarily think it's an art form. There's a lot of curators out there who think it is an art form. I hold a different view, which is fine to have different opinions about that sort of thing. But what really interests me is, what is the discursive field like? What is the political field like? What's the social field like for an exhibition, for a museum, for a gallery? In what ways do macro political and economic factors play into and influence, what you could call the micro forces or sort of microcosm of an exhibition or a small gallery or a museum, and vice versa. Do those seemingly local activities have a broader effect politically outward? And again, I'm not really talking about, and I don't really write about activism. I don't mean necessarily that an exhibition with a subject matter that is currently topically contentious, where that could be the site of activism. I'm not really talking about that, although that can also have a sort of broader political effect. But I'm much more interested in these sort of broad, sort of like glacial effects of how art changes and how society changes. So the writing I do is really, it's quite abstract. It's pretty niche, but it's quite abstract, and it touches on philosophy. And I read a lot of philosophy. Yeah, I'm not the sort of art writer who is writing about, ICE agents at the moment, essentially kidnapping people, and then make an exhibition about that. I don't do that. I do something more abstract. Yeah.
So you have worked across a lot of different departments that have, a tie to creativity, theater, music, communications, art, and you have this training in art. You've been talking about it and making art for a really, really long time. And so I wonder, with these other departments that you've been a chair for besides art, do you think being the chair has pushed you to learn more about those creative mediums within those departments? Or do you think you already had some background knowledge that kind of supported you in being the chair, maybe a mix of the two?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I learned a lot about filmmaking and actually even the sort of creativity within the social science side of communication studies, because communication and media here at CSUSB it sort of has three elements which are not necessarily totally overlapping. They overlap in some areas. What used to be called human communication, which now is relational and organizational communication, and a lot of that is social science based, and they use methodologies from social sciences in their research. So they sample it, they use a lot of questionnaires and focus groups, and then statistical analysis and so on, and mathematical controlling of the data and so on. And then there's media studies, which is probably closest to what I do now, which is a little bit like comparative literature. I mean, I say I do comparative literature for art theory and political theory, because I'm not a political theorist per se. And that's things like film studies, people studying television, advertising, at all sorts of things, and it's prose, not prose writing, but it's writing that analyzes through a qualitative matrix of different criteria. Whereas a lot of what happens in relational and organizational is quantitative methods. So you're measuring how much people think this, how much they react this way to a certain factor, like, I don't know, certain qualities of a film or a type of television show. So you're measuring quantitatively. Whereas in media studies, it's mostly qualitative analysis, which again is more closer to what I do now. And then there's production. There's film, video, audio, radio, social media production, which they do here at CSUSB too. And I learned all sorts about all three of those areas. I mean, I felt like I knew most about media studies, because it's closest to what I've been doing, for the last 20 years in my writing. And I knew, I know how to use a video camera, but I certainly don't know how to be a professional videographer or filmmaker. So I learnt loads from my colleagues there. And then I really enjoyed learning about these quantitative methods from my social science colleagues in Comm as well, because it just completely changed the way I think about the solidity or the kind of veracity of what I do as a qualitative researcher. And I'm still trying to think about, well, how can I make what I do better, like more real, more solid? So that's been great, and I come into these two departments, the Department of Theatre Arts and the Department of Music, with the same sort of open mind. Like, I remember when we first met with the Dean and the Provost, I think, Scott, you were probably there as well, I basically said, look, I'm just the guy who, I'm happy to come in and serve and do all the things that nobody else wants to do. Like, I'm happy to come in and do all the admin that is just so crushingly boring that it allows faculty colleagues and staff colleagues to do the things that they love doing. And I genuinely mean it. I sort of have an appetite for structures and machines. Like, I like tinkering with my 2008 Subaru Outback, which isn't so sophisticated like cars are today that you can't fix it yourself. I can fix a lot on that car myself. I really like machines, and I really like finding out how machines work and taking them apart and then trying to put them back together again. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that with these two departments, but you get the analogy, right? Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about theatre arts, because although I did performance as a student and as a young artist in London, I really don't know anything about theatre, not in any serious, like, scholastic, academic way. And the same about music. I'm just really open to learn from all you guys as students, but also from staff and faculty colleagues too. So I'm excited. It's interesting.
We've asked a lot of questions towards professor and chair. Now let's get to know a little bit about Matthew Poole.
Okay.
We've had reports, good ones, from a lot of students that when they pass by your office, they hear Foo Fighters.
Oh yeah. I think I annoyed one of my colleagues the other day because I was like drumming along on the desk really loud.
I do it too, I get it.
Yeah, to Pretender, like that's one of their loudest songs.
Yeah.
I do like the Foo Fighters. I've got the T-shirt and everything. Yeah, I love Nirvana.
I was going to wear that T-shirt today too.
Nice. Yeah, I do. I like listening to music. I only occasionally do it in my office if I can't think. It just helps me just get out of my head, and then I turn it off and I get on with work. But I listen to music loud in the car when I'm on my own, driving to and from work. I like a wide range of music from... I don't really listen to, classical or Baroque or, I have listened to classical, Baroque and medieval music, but I mostly listen to like pop and rock and indie music. I used to be really, really into like indie music in the 90s and the 2000s. I'm wearing an Elastica T-shirt, as you can see. This is a small band from the UK, from London, in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when Blur and Oasis were big. These guys, Justine Frischmann, who is depicted with the black hair, that was Damon Albarn's partner at the time. They were, good but short-lived indie band, and all sorts of Scott and I share taste in music. Bauhaus, for example. Scott's got the Bauhaus T-shirt on.
Let's go, Scott.
Yeah, Muscle in Plastic, etc. I like them. I like the Jesus and Mary Chain, Echo and the Bunnymen, things like that. So, you know, it's a little. My record collection is a little skewed, like British. But I like
pretty good music.
I like a lot of American bands. But yeah, I like, you know, gangster rap. I like hip hop. I like. I've listened to some country music. I mean, it's a culture that I'm just not familiar with.
Yeah.
But some of it's interesting.
Extremely American.
It's very American. Yeah, it really is.
Depends which era, to be fair.
Right. Yeah, it's complex. It's got a long history. Yeah. I was thrilled when Beyonce did so well with her country album. I mean, that was just awesome and long overdue. I don't mean for her, but I mean for country music to recognise somebody who isn't white. But also, you know, I like mod music from the 60s and 70s. Yeah, all sorts, really.
Okay. You said you grew up around London, right?
Not really. I lived there for about 20 years as an adult, but I grew up in the north of England.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, in the city of Leeds, which is in sort of central West Yorkshire, and then most of my childhood was in a small town on the east coast in North Yorkshire called Scarborough. And it's an old Victorian destination for vacations. It has a natural spa, and Victorian British people were obsessed with spa water. It has a Roman castle, in ruins. And yeah, it's a small, semi-rural town, which was fun as a kid. Like, I used to do surfing because there's two bays. The North Bay in Scarborough is like internationally renowned for its waves. It's just insanely cold. I mean, like, you have to wear the hat, the gloves, the boots, and the full wetsuit. It's really, really cold. But we used to love it as kids, as teenagers. We used to go to, there's arcades on the South Bay because it's a big holiday destination, mostly for working class people in Britain, particularly working class Scottish people come to Scarborough for their holidays, for their vacations. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of fun things to do for young teenagers. And then as I got towards 18, I was like, oh God, this place is small.
Get me out of this town.
You got to get out of this town. Yeah, exactly. So I did, and I went to college and became an artist.
So I know you said you would later move to London, and I hear there's usually a good music scene. Did you ever check them out, or were you? Yeah,
no, it's amazing. I mean, London was a great place to be as a young person, and for 20 years it was amazing. Unfortunately, it's really, really expensive now, so unless you're a rich young person, it's quite difficult to live there, and I was not a rich young person, but it was easier back then because transportation was cheaper, rent was cheaper, food was cheaper, and so on. And it's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing hub for music, for theatre, for cinema, for the kind of contemporary art that I'm interested in. And so, yeah, we would go to music gigs all the time. I had a lot of friends who were musicians. And also, I was involved with a company that gave out leaflets at gigs, music gigs. So we would get in for free because we were paid, to be there to hand out leaflets to the crowds coming in and then the crowds coming out.
So you got to catch the show in between?
So we got to catch the show. It was ultra cool, yeah, for free and get paid. I mean, not paid very much, but, when you offset the ticket price for the concert you've just seen, it was great. So we did that for like 2 or 3 years, and that was nice. I saw some really diverse range of people, like Tony Bennett at the Albert Hall. That was pretty amazing. David Helfgott, I don't know if you know the famous Australian pianist who they made a film about him, about Rachmaninoff's 12th Symphony, I think. What else? There was a British West Indian artist called Finlay Quay, I don't know if you remember him. Massive Attack. The Spice Girls. That was really scary, actually, because all the kind of tiny tot kids who were into the Spice Girls came rushing down the concourse from the entranceway at Wembley Stadium. And it wasn't them so much that were the problem, it was their parents, particularly the mothers, who were just like ultra excited to see the Spice Girls as well. And we just got trampled. We just got completely trampled by this crowd of excited mums. So that was funny. I don't know if you know Robbie Williams from Take That.
I heard about the movie they were making like a year ago.
Ah, okay. So we did. Yeah, he was fun actually. Yeah, he's very friendly. So he came out and sort of spoke to us a bit. Yeah, all sorts of bands. It was nice.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, Asian Dub Foundation. Do you know them? They're very good. Yeah, all sorts. It was cool. Yeah. So actually, we went out like every week to do at least one gig.
Oh.
So for 3 years back then, I was seeing music every week. It was amazing.
I have to ask for Scott, me, and all the Cure alumni fans. Did you ever get to see the Cure over there? I know they play a lot more over there than here.
I didn't. I wish I had. I love the Cure. It's amazing, actually. I've been fascinated the last 12 years that I've lived here. That so many people are into goth bands in Southern California. I mean, is it that you're sick and tired of the sunshine? Is that? It's just like it's too bright and sunny here. Like we've got to have some darkness.
I enjoy both of it. I like the California aesthetic, but also goth nights of the night are great.
Nice. Yeah.
So you're also, like you mentioned previously, the advisor for the film club. Mm-hmm. So do you have a favorite film?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. I don't know. It's a tough one. I watch more films than I listen to music, I think. And there's sort of, a very broad range as well. I love popular films. I love, you've probably seen me in my Spider-Man T-shirt. I love Marvel films, and then I love art house films. I love horror. I mean, recently a film that I thought was very good is an Argentinian film called When Evil Lurks. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it, but make sure that you haven't eaten, because it's intense. There's a scene with a little child which, it gave me nightmares. It's very good film. Well, okay, so when I was a child, Star Wars was first coming out, so, Episode 6, what's it called? Hope Awakens? Or
Episode 6.
A New Hope?
Episode 4, A New Hope.
4, sorry, A New Hope. Thank you.
Yeah.
The first one, basically.
Yeah.
That is the foundation of my enjoyment of film. And I know it's a crazy cliche, but I love the Godfather films. But maybe that doesn't count because it's too cliched. I tell you a weird, maybe obscure to some people, but films that I have enjoyed from the 1960s, Jacques Tati films, the French director Jacques Tati. Like there's a film called Mon Oncle, which is a kind of slapstick comedy, but in this very modernist style. That he's an interesting director, I think, and his films are beautiful and capture something of a kind of optimism of like a white, clean modernist aesthetic. I mean, the color white. Also Jean-Luc Godard. I tell you what my favourite film is. Yeah, I've got it. Jean-Luc Godard, Sympathy for the Devil. If you haven't seen that, see that tomorrow. It's one of the best films ever made, I think. It is a documentary of. It's half documentary and half fictionalized content with the Rolling Stones in the studio, and Keith Richards is directing the production of the song Sympathy for the Devil. And not only do you get to see just this kind of fierce creativity that he had, I mean, he was, I think most people would agree, he was the kind of musical genius, or is the musical genius in the Rolling Stones. And he's cool, he's so cool in that film, because he's just, when you see an artist who is just in the moment, really all cylinders firing, 100%, it's incredibly thrilling. And you see him doing that, not just playing, but also telling the others what to do. And it's incredibly cool in that respect of just admiring an incredibly good musician. So you've got footage of them in the studio making the song. And then you've got these elements Godard invited the Black Panthers to come and read from their manifestos. And they're reading, some Marxist texts as well, and so on. And there's, people standing on burning cars in these sets in a backlot in a film studio, and it's just fascinating. It's not a narrative film. It's not exactly a documentary, but it captures something about the political turmoil of the mid to late 1960s in just a fascinating way. So maybe that's my favorite film. Yeah.
That does sound incredibly interesting. Now, I also have to ask, because you mentioned earlier that you like Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you know the debate of which is the best Spider-Man?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have an answer?
Oh, I don't. I really like the one that Sam Raimi directed. And that's the one with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Or one of the ones with Tobey Maguire. Because I think Sam Raimi's brilliant. Darkman, Night of the Living Dead, Evil Dead, and so on. But, yeah, I think probably the Tobey Maguire ones are better. But, you know, I like, what's his name, the English guy, the little English guy.
Tom Holland?
Tom Holland. I think he's done all right.
Good, yeah.
He's quite good. I think he's a bit too buff, though. Like, he's like a tiny little, plastic toy. I think he's a good actor. I don't mean to knock his acting, but he's, like, buffed up too much for a tiny little guy like that. Not that I should be, like, body Nazi, but in that Spider-Man film, or there's 2 now, right, where I think?
He's in this.
Is there 3 now?
There's 3 main ones for him, and he's also just appeared in the other Marvel.
Yeah.
And they're currently making the 4th one.
They are currently making the 4th one.
Wow. Yeah, what I liked about the Tobey Maguire one is that Peter Parker is supposed to just be, like, regular dude. Like, he's not supposed to be a superhero already. And Tobey Maguire was really good for that, because he's got that kind of goofy look, and he sort of always looks a bit confused, and, he's an attractive young man, but he's not, like, sculpted. But maybe that wasn't Tom Holland's fault. Maybe the director said, you got to look like this. That happened. So, I don't know.
So before we finish off for today, we've loved having you on here. We got to know, would you survive the zombie apocalypse?
Oh, great.
This is a question for the president, by the way. The president specifically
Yes, she
wanted
can't
to
be
know.
here, but she wanted to know.
Okay. Oh, I love zombie films. I love zombie films so much. Would I? Maybe. Yeah, I'm pretty like DIY like oriented. I can fix cars. I've renovated houses that I've lived in. I live in the forest up in Twin Peaks, so I know how to use an axe and a chainsaw. I don't have much experience with guns. That seems to be like a pretty important prerequisite for surviving. But I've been to Dave and Buster's and I've played those games.
There we go.
We know who we're going to stick with then.
Find Matthew Poole.
Yeah, so maybe a crossbow. I mean, I've done it at Dave and Buster's, so I don't know.
It translates. Probably.
And I know how to use gasoline. Don't tell anyone. For uses other than internal combustion engines. Mm-hmm. So that seems to be like a good thing for zombies, right? Like Molotov cocktails?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
As long as you can run, too. I mean,
Right. So you tell me, what do you think?
I believe in you. I believe in you.
Thank you.
I think the DIY aspect will
Especially,
really carry you through, I think.
Oh, I have 2 nail guns. Yes.
Yeah. There we go.
We're set.
We're set,
everybody. Here in the theater department, we're good.
Find Matthew Poole. We're surviving. Thank you for joining us today, Matthew.
My pleasure. Thank
definitely
you.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks a lot. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, that was our podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and catch us next time. Anyways, that was the podcast of the Pear Garden. Thank you.
Bye.